So, man, it's an honor, of course, to be on the panel with these amazing brothers, and they want to share their story. Coming from Pittsburgh, we had a high-profile police killing in 2018 of a young man named Antoine Rose II. He was 17 years old. He was unarmed. He was running away from a police officer when he was shot 3 times in the back. That officer who shot him was an officer at the University of Pittsburgh. He was fired. He moved to this East Pittsburgh Police Department. He was on the job for 4 hours before he shot and killed Antoine Rose II. And so, although it was on videotape, although Antoine was running away and was not a threat, that officer was found not guilty. So when he was found not guilty, I just want to share a piece, a part of a larger piece that was like the first thoughts that came to my mind when Officer Michael Roosevelt was found not guilty for the murder of Antoine Rose II. Can it be you don't see my humanity, black sheep of the family, black streets in calamity, black Jesus is blasphemy? Try being black and keeping your sanity, beaten savagely. Our killers always leaving with amnesty. Blindfolded white women never seeing the travesty. Bird boxing shots sting my anatomy, bringing the gravity, clinging to gravity. Why is my death never seen as a tragedy? Ain't I a black king with majesty? Royalty my anatomy? G.O.D. ain't a fantasy? Am I cursed because I speak in profanity? We needy financially, understandably, was cheated substantially. Then they give us back scraps and believe it's philanthropy. Open mirrors on the road, got me weaving catastrophe, broken mirrors to my soul. All I see is the vanity. Pittsburgh when you delete all the tragedy. Stronger than hate, wait, unless a black dream is the casualty. One hood, I'm just Syriac Shaw, peace. I forgot my role. I'm supposed to bring up, are you the founder, co-founder of Families United for Justice, just a force in the social justice movement and loving on families that have been victimized by police violence. My sister Beatrice, come on out.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? How y'all doing? All right. So I am Sister Beatrice X, affectionately known as Aunt B, and I am the co-founder of Love Not Blood campaign and Families United for Justice, who is hosting this panel. So let's give it up because we're given an opportunity for you all to hear from these beautiful men, black men. As you can see, they're all black. The struggle of the black man, of being just black in America, is something in itself. You will not know it unless you actually live it. And to imagine that you're from the same system, your loved ones are murdered and there is no justice, on top of 400 plus years of being black in America and being a man. So it's a struggle. They're always getting put under the shadow because we love the mothers, and yes, we carry those babies for 9 months and we should have our say. But that does not mean that the black man does not love, protect, and fight for his black family. So give it up again for these black men. And I'm just gonna briefly say that Love Not Blood campaign, Families United for Justice, we have been hosting these since 2012. One of our first ones, we have our brother, Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., who joined us in New York for many years, and then some followed, but in 2012, because we wanted to offer the black man in this fight an opportunity, since they're always being pushed back with mainstream media and in the movement period. So please go and support Love Not Blood campaign at www.lovenotbloodcampaign.org. We also have Families United for Justice. It's a network of families that we bring together. We pay their airfare, their hotel for 3 days. Last year we were in San Diego. This year we're somewhere I can't say because they don't know, so they might be watching. And we'll be announcing it on Tuesday. But make sure you support, because this is all about the families, and give them an opportunity to be somewhere where they could get tools to go back and fight for their loved ones. So thank you all for coming. Don't forget to go see us at www.lovenotbloodcampaign. And please open your heart and your mind and your ears to listen to these men who suffer from having a loved one killed and no justice. Thank you. And I will call up now Uncle Bobby. Uncle Bobby, the uncle of Oscar Grant. How many saw the movie Fruitville Station? All right, here we go. Uncle Bobby, give him a round of applause.
Well, thank you again, affectionately known to the community as Uncle Bobby. I'm the uncle of Oscar Grant. And first, I just want to thank all of you for coming to sit in this space with us at this time to hear our story, to hear our voices, and to hear our love for our children. I think most importantly, you're here. And we just want to recognize and thank you for allowing us to be also able to share these stories. I kind of got thrown off. But what I want to do really quickly is just kind of, you can turn on the video. This is the website, Love Not Blood Campaign website. And I'm going to have a video streaming in the background as we talk. And you've probably seen this video here. Let's get to that. Didn't have enough time to set up a little earlier, but we'll get there. I'm gonna expand this. So I don't know if you've seen these names, but this is in, of course, Minnesota, where George Floyd was killed, and many of the names, our family name. It's not streaming?
It's back on. It's back on. You keep going in and out.
Did I do that?
There you go.
Okay. Oh, it's going in and out. But anyhow, as they work on the technical side, I'm gonna sit down. I feel like I'm hidden, so I may stand up at times because this podium has actually got me out the frame. But we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to call up our moderator, Michael Roosevelt, who's a good friend of ours and who has been working a lot with us and doing this work. Michael.
How y'all doing? All right. We'd like to begin with a moment of silence and a call to the ancestors. We would not be here if it was not for the ancestors who preceded us. And in the room are fathers who have left us with ancestors, people who we can call upon to empower us. And so when we call out an ancestor, we say Ashe. So we're going to do a ritual very quickly, and I want you to follow behind. I'm going to name some ancestors. Michael Brown Jr. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
Malcolm X. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
Oscar Grant. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
We say Ashe.
Ashe.
We say Ashe to all those who we do not name. We mean them no disrespect. We say Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe. As we move forward into discussion of fathers and fatherhood and manhood and the trials and tribulations that face African-American men, particularly African-American men who has faced a tremendous loss. We are on sacred ground here. This is the home of August Wilson, the poet, the playwright of great esteem, who wrote 10-play cycle on the African-American experience. And he captured the trauma that African-American men and women experienced by police trauma. He captured the history of the Great Black Migration. He captured the history of jazz, of the African culture. And so he was a part of that long legacy of storytelling. We would call him a griot in the African tradition. So we want to open up by a question, and we want each of the brothers to say a little bit about themselves so you get to know who they are, about 3 minutes each. I'm going to try to rein them in. Good luck on that. But I'm going to start with, I'm going to call him the elder in the group, Kenneth. Say a few words about yourself. He's young, but you know.
The elder. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Kenneth Chamberlain, Jr. My situation is, although I am a father, I am a son of a victim of injustice. My father, Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., was shot and killed November 19, 2011, when he inadvertently triggered his Life Aid pendant that he wore around his neck. My father suffered from a heart condition and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. On the morning that he triggered it, the monitoring station attempted to reach him and was unsuccessful, so they contacted the White Plains Police Department. The White Plains Police Department arrived at my father's apartment in what they consider a low-income housing area. They went to his door, banged on his door. My father came to the door and said he was okay. But that wasn't enough for the officers. They demanded that my father open the door, but no crime had been committed, so he was within his right to keep his door closed. He did crack it and say he was okay. But for over 90 minutes, they would yell at him, scream at him, mock his military service. At one point, my father says, "I'm telling you I'm okay," and the police respond back saying, "I don't give an F," and then use the N-word. They eventually took the door off his hinges, fired an electronic taser at him, beanbag shotgun 4 times, and then fired live rounds at him, shooting and killing him. Of course, the DA at that time promised a full and fair investigation, but in May of 2012, my family heard what many other families heard, which was, after an exhaustive investigation, the grand jury has determined that there is not sufficient enough evidence to charge the officer in the killing of my father. So we moved forward civilly. They then found for the city in the civil case, and that was due to questionable rulings by the judge. But we filed an appeal, and in May of 2020, we won the appeal with the Second Circuit. And one of the most powerful statements that was made inside there was the judges said that instead of treating Mr. Chamberlain like a critically ill patient, you treated him like a criminal suspect. So they were not protected under qualified immunity, which is what most of these officers use as that shield to protect them from being held accountable on any level. So.
I want to keep it moving.
Okay.
I'm going to try to rein you in,
Right.
but I'm doing the best I can. I'm starting with you.
Yeah.
Jacob.
My name is Jacob Blake Sr. In 2020, my son, Jacob Jr., was shot 7 times in his back in Kenosha, Wisconsin, by a police officer because my son walked away from him, never turning, being aggressive, and was shot 7 times in his back in front of my grandchildren. At what point in time do we, as black people, need to explain to white America that we are part of the human race, that we are not animals, we're not dogs, we deserve much more than we get. And we fight for justice for black and brown people all over the country. I am Jacob Blake. You are Jacob Blake. We are Jacob Blake.
Thank you so much. Michael?
I am Michael Brown Sr., the father of Michael Brown Jr., that was killed 2014 in Ferguson, St. Louis, Missouri. Michael and a friend was walking down the middle of the street. The officer pulled past them and told them to get the F out the street. He proceeded to stop his vehicle, put his car in reverse, cut these teenagers off, and asked my son to come to the car. From that point right there, a struggle started. Mike was shot in the hand, blew his thumb off. As a kid, you're scared, he took off running. The officer proceeded to get out his car, asked Mike to stop. When he asked him to stop, he fired 7 more shots into his body, making him fall face first on the ground. we've been putting up this fight ever since 2014. Uncle Bobby and the rest of the families had came in support. There's no blueprint to you losing your kid like that. You're thinking that the police is supposed to serve and protect. When they do things like this to your family, they tear your family apart. Families going to different type of mode as far as communication. You know, it's set up for our family just to fail, period. So we had to do a lot of soul searching, trying to, you know, keep our family together and still do the work as far as getting justice for Mike. So I'm still riding it out, trying to get justice for my son.
All right. Andrew.
And my name is Andrew Joseph Jr. I'm the father of Andrew Joseph III. And you know, it's the hardest feeling in the world to have to go to the graveyard to see your child. For every Michael Brown and Jacob Blake and Kenneth Chamberlain and Oscar Grant, names that everybody knows, there's 100 Andrew Josephs. I allowed my son to go to the Florida State Fair, February the 7th, 2014. An honor roll student, never had a discipline problem in his life. We had just won a TBYFL championship in Orlando. He was starting running back on his Pop Warner team. While he was at this fair, he was detained by the Hillsborough Sheriff's Department. He was standing on a ride to get on the ride and noticed that his team buddies was being arrested. He got off the ride to go and help his buddies. They were being detained by the Hillsborough Sheriff's Department, the gang task force. The little boy hat came off, his shoe came off. As my son approached the scene, he picked up the hat and the shoe and returned it to the young man. We called him Pee-wee. He said, Pee-wee, you see how they handling us? Yeah, why y'all being arrested? What y'all did? We ain't do nothing. Officer, why are these kids being arrested? What did they do? You know these kids? Yes, they're my teammates. I came to the fair to meet them. Well, come on, you need to come with us. For what? I didn't do anything. So he took my son and the next door neighbor that he went to the fair with. They photographed him, they fingerprinted him. The last picture that I have of my child is a mugshot of him standing against the fence holding a sign with his name and his address on it. They put my son in a paddy wagon and abandoned him on the side of the road without a phone call to anybody. As he was trying to get back to the fair, he was hit on top of I-4, Interstate I-4, by 19-year-old white Jonathan Hatfield. Jonathan Hatfield was coming from the fair, going to the casino. Jonathan Hatfield wasn't given a breath test. He wasn't given a ticket. He was allowed to leave the scene with my son's remains all over the front grill as if nothing had happened. Now, I heard my brother mention earlier, I got you. We at this table are no longer even fighting for human rights. Anybody at this table with this situation, if our children and loved ones was animals, mangy dogs, red-bitten dogs, they wouldn't have put that dog in a car and drove that dog around the block 3 times and let that dog off on side the end of the state. They wouldn't have shot a dog and let that dog lay in the road for 4.5 hours. If the dog was running away from them, they wouldn't be running behind the dog to shoot the dog. They wouldn't stand over the dog and shoot the dog 7 times in his back. They wouldn't break into the dog's house and shoot the dog while he's in his own house, on his chain. If we were just treated better than animals, none of us will be sitting here. Racism is the biggest problem on the planet. When we solve racism, we solve 85% of the problems on the planet. And we can't do it by ourselves. Thank you.
Uncle Bobby.
I'm going to stand up because I hate to sit down and half the people can't see me. As you've heard, we all had to take this trip back into time to that moment in that space, and it's very painful. And I'm going to attempt to do it too. Of course, on January 1st, 2009, at the Fruitvale BART station, my nephew, Oscar Grant, was murdered. Preceding that murder, he simply went to see the fireworks in San Francisco with his friends. On the train coming back, there was a tussle that did occur between Oscar and an old friend of his. And a white commuter said that there was a Latino black gang fight. The train had to be stopped. Tony Peroni came up on the platform with his taser out, over aggressive, telling the young man when he testified that he went on a hunch because he saw these black males standing at this train and asked them to go to the wall, and they did. He threw Michael Greer to the ground. Eventually, Oscar was pleading, we want to talk to a supervisor. He eventually, I'm gonna cut it short, but he eventually called Oscar a bitch-ass nigga 3 times. Oscar was eventually thrown to the ground on his stomach. Tony Peroni had his knee on his neck, same knee that was on George Floyd's neck, choking him out. Oscar was saying he can't breathe. He also put his hands on his face, and he was pushing his face through the concrete floor. He cracked the bones in his face. Johannes Mesley was on his back. Johannes Mesley, 6'7", 270 pounds. Tony Peroni was 6'2", 250 pounds. Oscar was 5'10", 150 pounds. He had 600 pounds officer on his back. As he was struggling to put his hands behind his back as they was pulling on him, eventually they were put behind his back to be handcuffed. They was crisscrossed. Johannes Mesley stands up, pulls his weapon out, shoots Oscar Cinemask in the back. Bullet goes through his body, hit the concrete floor, bounces back up, and penetrates his chest, of course, collapsing his lung and killing him. All caught on video. And so, sadly, his life was resurrected because of those videos. And, I have to say this now. Thank you for all those that do take a moment out of their lives when you're witnessing something that is heinously wrong and you pull your cameras out and you video record. Because without that video, none of us would know Oscar Grant today. Let's be clear about that. Millions of people were able to view for the first time cell phone video of an actual murder that took place. Oscar's the flashpoint of the movement that we see happening today. So I'm not going to go too much further, but let me just ask, who have seen the movie Fruitvale Station? Let me see your hands. So the majority of you have. For those who have not seen the movie Fruitvale Station, I have to say it's 98% accurate to what occurred. So for those that may not know our story, watch the movie Fruitvale Station. Michael B. Jordan played Oscar Grant. Octavia played, of course, my sister, Wanda. And Melody Diaz played Oscar's girlfriend, Safina. A very powerful movie, and I'll pin it there, Michael.
What we are talking about are men, fathers, sons who are dealing with trauma. And trauma is one of those words that get thrown around a lot. But what we know about trauma is it can change how your genes express themselves. It can do damage to your health and well-being. And I want to know, what have you done and what are you doing to take care of yourselves? Because we want to hold you, but what are you doing to take care of yourselves? Each of you are strong men, but even strong men need to cry. Even strong men need to find voice. Sidebar, not promoting anyone here, but there is a new documentary about Michael Brown the father and the story that it tells. And so I want to start with you in terms of how are you sort of dealing with this and managing it?
I would say, first off, just putting in this work, staying visual, staying out there. I do have a therapist. Some black folks don't believe in those, but I do. Definitely helps me out. I have a praying family that makes sure that they keep positive flowing through my soul, you know. But yeah, every day is definitely different. I still struggle with what had happened. So it's a lot of things that I do though. Shooting range, exercising, you know, especially my therapist though. My therapist, I get a chance to just throw up on her.
Yes.
And she don't judge, you know. So I'm able to get it out, get things out that my core of my feelings, you know. So, but definitely in my children, man. My children keep me, they keep me grounded,
Yes.
you know. Especially Mike's baby sister, you know. It's just, she's amazing, you know. She has a spiritual connection with him, so I just sit back and listen to her, you know. So just my family and keeping it moving, keeping it pushing, and letting everybody know I do get help now. I'm not just trying to fight this by myself. So,
Thank you for sharing that. Jacob, sort of how do you, on a day-to-day basis, how are you handling it?
Well, everybody here knows I'm the crybaby of the group. I release those emotions continuously. You develop coping mechanisms to deal with all of these. You have feelings inside of you that when something happens to your child, they rear up like a lion, like a almost a demon. And you want to take out your emotions, just let them run, but you have to learn to control your rage. And we all, of course, I have a therapist too, and I burn her phone up because I travel so much. So there's nothing wrong, black and brown people, with seeking help, because there's times at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning when you're ready to jump. The window's wide open, and you're on the 19th floor, and you're ready to jump. So you have to learn how to cope with that. And these brothers everyone sitting at this table, I could call at 2 in the morning when I need help. We give so much out there that we forget that we need help too.
Thank you. Kenneth? And I want to add, Kenneth, I saw the film, the story about your father. It was extremely moving. It put me in the room with him. If you haven't seen that film, I highly commend it, because if you understand what it felt like for him, it puts you in his shoes, it puts you in his space, it puts you in that, you feel powerless, absolutely powerless. And here he is, an elderly man who served his country with distinction. That's just a sidebar. I wanted, how do you, yeah.
So let me just say very quickly, I used to always hear people talk about that cry in the late night hour. I never understood what that meant. But once I began to understand that cry when you're by yourself and nobody else is around, that's not the cry that's the hardest. Right. And I think that I can say that for myself and for all of my brothers that are up here. The cry that's the hardest is the early morning cry. When you have to get up, you have to get yourself together, you have to keep your family together, and you have to go out this door and be productive and fight, and still fighting to affect positive change. When my father was killed, people would say, you need to talk to somebody. And my reaction was, talk about what? About how the police murdered my father? Talk about what? How I feel like I don't get the support that I need in this city? What do you want me to talk about? I don't have time to do it. But in 2019, I lost my father in 2011, but in 2019, I lost my daughter in a car accident. And that broke me. Because now I was dealing with my father and my child. So I did reach out to somebody, and I am in therapy, and they teach me to compartmentalize and be able to express some of the things that's going on in my life. But one of the best things I think that my therapist said to me was, we know what happened to your father. We know what happened to your daughter. Tell us something that made you laugh that your father used to do. And I began to talk about that. Of course the tears came, but you've heard us talk about being in therapy, and I think that that is one of the best things that I can say that I've done in this 10 going on 11-year fight trying to get accountability in the killing of my father.
Thank you. Andrew?
Well, I'm going to tell you already, I ain't had no therapy. Boy, and I'm crazy, 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 crazy. And it's like a roller coaster ride. I mean, you go from normal to my goddamn chain short.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're dealing with grief, everybody has a different definition of grief and how they're going to handle it. And you know, it's like a Monday quarterback. You can say you're going to do this and you can say you're going to do that until it actually knocks on your door and death is on your step. And there's different stages of this thing that we call grief, which we have defined as love with nowhere to go. And this grief is designed by blueprint to break up your families. It comes with a hospital visit. It's going to dig in your pocket. It's going to mess with your marriage. This is what this is designed for, to break you. And this is all part of stage 1 of this grief. When you're on an emotional roller coaster and you're blaming yourself and then you're blaming the others around you, everybody on the stage then contemplated suicide. I go from putting a pistol in my mouth to wanting to put the pistol in everybody's mouth. You go through denial. This can't be happening to me. Not my son. This can't be happening to me. Stage 1. And then finally we move on to stage 2, where you learn to deal with reality. I ain't gonna never see my child again on this earth. That's a fact. And you turn that anger into fight. And we don't have control over when your loved one dies, or when their bones are disintegrating in the ground in a tomb. The only thing as families we have control over is their legacy and their name. And when everybody on earth forgets your name, Nobody has your image, then and only then you're truly dead. But as long as your name is here with the living, and you're part of this spirit. And then you move on to level 3, when, you know, you're a little bit more calm. And you go from needing the help to able to provide the help. Because see, when death comes on your door, this table right here is the first person you call him. How'd you do it? So that's why we're here. We're making a blueprint. But, you know, I have a court date. We've been fighting this thing for 8 years, since 2014. And because of qualified immunity, they're able to hide behind their badge. If we change nothing else in this world, qualified immunity has to go. And if you don't have I got you. And if you don't have a full understanding of it, Google qualified immunity. See how you read it. See how it interprets to you. Does it read right in your mind? Qualified immunity, cyber immunity, qualified immunity is a federal immunity. Qualified cyber immunity is a state immunity. Crown immunity, supreme immunity. Google those things while you're Googling Andrew Joseph III, so you can hear his story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uncle Bobby.
Thank you. The question, what am I doing basically to somewhat stay healthy and to continue in this fight? Well, about an hour and a half before Oscar was murdered, he was really heavy on my spirit. And it was troubling, so I texted him and I said, Uncle, love you, God loves you, and God loves your family. An hour and a half later, he was murdered. And when I saw that video, I actually collapsed. But when I came back around trying to make sense of things, I was in extreme rage. Hold on. Nothing but destructiveness was in my mind. But somehow God made me remember how blessed I was to tell Oscar that I loved him before he was murdered. And it was then I realized it wasn't about destruction, but it was about construction. And it was from that point that I made it a point to touch every possible family that God would allow to give some love to, so that they would not have to suffer as hard as I felt that I did at that time when Oscar was murdered. And so I give as much love to families, to brothers especially, that's been impacted by this violence, because I understand the rage and where we want to go with it. And some of us are not here today because we went the wrong way. You know, so I could take my hat off to these brothers that are sitting on this panel, because each one of us has found a way to do something constructive about really bringing about real systemic change to this egregious violence that we are witnessing and that we felt behind the police conduct. Part of the other aspect is that through our organization, we have conferences. And we manage to raise money to make sure that every family that come to that conference have an opportunity just to show up, to network with other families, to be embraced by other families, because what we have learned is that we heal each other. When a new family has been impacted, get a hug from Andrew or Michael Brown, they be like, it's so empowering that it helps begin the process of healing for yourself. And while you're in your pain, you find that now you can hug someone else that's in the more recent pain that you just somewhat, as Andrew was talking about, moved to stage 2. And so that's what I do. I consistently create these panels so brothers can express themselves. It's healing that comes from that. You know, wow, I found myself caught up going back in time talking about that moment when Oscar was murdered, just when I texted him and told him I love him. You know, and of course, on our board, we have a psychologist, Dr. Tony Jackson, that always whispers in my ear, don't forget about yourself. You need to do this, you need to do that. And I listen to him. So, you know, this help that we receive is great. But what is also empowering, and I'll share this and sit down, is that when you embrace us and you share your love, not so much about how you're doing, but, you know, hey, I'm praying for you. Can I hug you? You know, that means, thank you, Jacob. It means so much to us because it's you that empowers us to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Historically, black men have been maligned. Black fathers have been maligned. Black fatherhood has been denied. And this is not by accident, this is by design. There is a concerted effort to destroy black families, to eliminate the black man. And this has started with the enslavement of Africans, and it has continued. And the fact that these men are still standing up is revolutionary. It is absolutely revolutionary. Because the system is designed to break them down. And when we talk about the work that they are doing, and I want to transition a bit because Uncle Bobby led us to this, because let the Spirit lead me here. They're doing the good work in the community. And I want to sort of drive that home because fuck the media. We don't need to tell him to tell the story. They can tell their own story. And I want them to talk about the work that they are doing in their communities. And so I'm going to transition, and I want to, Uncle Bobby started it. I want to go to Mike. I want to go to all the brothers, talk about the kind of in the ground work you're doing in the community. Mike?
Well, since 2014, crazy people say, man, y'all just lost Mike. How are y'all giving things back right now? So since November, August 14, we've been giving away turkeys to families that were affected. See, people don't talk about the tanks and the curfews that happened in Ferguson when all that happened. A lot of people lost their homes. So it was just all in my heart to give back, you know, make sure them bills, some bills was paid, some food was issued out, and over the years we just did that, you know. I have 3 entities that's up under the umbrella of the Children for Change Foundation. It's the Mothers of an Angel. It's ran by some of the mothers out of St. Louis, including my wife. She give women a space to have a voice and to be able to express themselves and be around women that understand the next, the person that's going through the same thing you're going through, right? I have chosen fathers. We've been doing retreats for the last, 3 years? I have a group of fathers, because I talk about this big. This is just what's going on. You know, this is what people are paying attention to. You know, like we say, it ain't no disrespect to the woman, but we get looked over. You know, the brain set or the mindset is definitely was embedded in us to take pain and keep it moving. Y'all ain't hurting. Ain't nothing wrong with y'all. Keep going. So I definitely put a space together so we could get together and we can heal together, cry together, talk shit together. Whatever we need to do, we doing it together. You know, because like I tell them, some of them tell me, you know, you the strongest guy alive. I don't know why they feel that way, but they help me. Why they think I'm helping them, they helping me the whole time, you know. We have an entity chosen by MB2. That's a kid group for the boys. That's another thing that I'm working on. We have Sisters in Purpose. That's Mike's sisters. and they go around, they talk to young girls. We was trying to plan a trip for Africa because they had learned that, young women were over there being teased, laughed at when they came on their period, right? So they wanted to teach them how to make those type of things that they need through through their cycle and stuff like that. So I said, that's a big thing, so I'm trying to push that to help them do that, So like I said, we staying busy. We on the ground. Team no sleep, look at me. I sleep when I'm dead. But I got plenty of work to do. We want y'all to check out our website. It's the time to say those now.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to go to Kenneth.
Okay.
The work you're doing. And I'm going to come to your questions, too, so we want to make sure we get to your questions.
So one of the things that I did, because in White Plains, New York, when my father was killed, they'll put these narratives out and make it seem like families are just interested in obtaining money. And this is the reason why we create these foundations and things like that. But that's not it. That's so far from the truth. So I didn't necessarily start a foundation in my father's name. What I did was I created the Westchester Coalition, or helped co-found the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform. And this is a group of several nonprofit organizations throughout Westchester County who we've all come together with the sole purpose of affecting positive change and really looking at the rule of law and trying to ensure that these officers are held accountable when they commit these types of egregious acts. I also work for the Urban League of Westchester, where I do social work there. And my CEO allowed me to create a unit inside there as well, the Center for Social Justice and Responsibility. The only thing is trying to find funding to get that unit up and running the way that I really want it to run, where we will be looking at legal referrals. We will go with individuals who want to file police complaints in police stations, or we would be the resource right there. If you want to file a police report, you come to us. You don't have to go to the police department, and we'll help you with the follow-through, because it is very intimidating for somebody to go to a police officer and allege that another police officer did something to them. So those are just a couple of things that we're doing, and also I'm very active in the back-to-school give-backs, giving backpacks away and things like that for the kids for school. Actually, when I leave here tomorrow, I'll be rushing back to do that. But that's some of the things that I'm doing in the community.
All right, Jacob.
We've created a foundation called Families United. That's Jacob Blake's family, and co-founder with myself is Breonna Taylor's aunt, Bianca Austin. So what we do as Families United, we go to families that have been affected by police brutality all over the country. We take them support. We go and offer them things that we have inside our foundation, be it psychological, just their. What people really don't understand is that when this happens to a family, that family really just needs this. There's no whole lot of talking, because you can look in the eyes of, when I look in the eyes of these cats, we all feel the same way. So there's nothing, the support for those families is what's important. Whatever they want to do. Do they want to walk? Do they want a candlelight vigil, balloon release? Whatever they want to do, we take that to those families. I don't know if you all know Jalen Walker in Akron, Ohio, 60-some shots in his body. Well, we were peacefully protesting in his name. and they whooped my ass. They beat me into a seizure. I ended up in the hospital for, what is it, 3 days? It was 3 days. I don't remember what the three, I just remember leaving the hospital. I kept the gown on and kept walking. Let me get the hell out of here while I can. So what we do is real. What we take to these families is real. We don't receive paychecks for what we do. We are all grassroots organizations. So if you throw a nickel or a dime or quarter at us, we put that quarter to use. But we cannot sustain support for these communities without support from y'all. Even if you come with us, come ready. We don't come off the porch playing with this thing. If that ass whooping is what I had to take for it to be brought awareness about Jalen Walker, then that was an ass whooping I'm ready to take every day.
That's authentic. You're saying something that's authentic. I mean, this is about love, but also about sacrifice. That's, Dr. King talked about the beloved community and the importance of sacrifice. And none of these men ever wanted to be where they are now. I want you to think about it. None of these men wanted to be seated here right now, but they are. And they found a way to help and heal others. People think about backpacks as a simple thing to do. But the exchange of a backpack tells that kid, you see him, you see her, she's legitimate. She can go to school, he can go to school. It is not a backpack, it becomes almost like a totem. And some kids will wear that backpack until it's raggedy because what it means. And so when you think about these small things, these little moments in the lives of our families, they're very, very powerful. They impact us so much, and the work they do is so important. I know Uncle Bobby talked a little about his work, but I want to talk to Andrew about the work you're doing in the community, and then we're going to open it up to questions. I'm here for Bobby for a little bit, and open up to questions from you.
All right, sounds good, sounds good. And at the Andrew Joseph Foundation, that's the Andrew Joseph Foundation, we do many, many, many services. And just like now, you guys are providing me with therapy, things that I really needed. We provide that same type of therapy to these day one families. I know there's a lot of activists here, but we need somebody on the ground that's getting our stories. Because the police are getting their stories to support their narratives. So we have to have somebody on the ground that have their mind right. Because we need pictures, we need statements. The first 48 hours is critical to your whole case. We run a food pantry. We provide these families that we're dealing with weekly food deliveries. We are doing that out of We Feed Tampa. There's a mentoring program that we do after school, as well as a summer program that we do summer camp for. Of course, we do the backpacks and the turkeys for Thanksgiving and bikes for Christmas. We do baskets for Easter. And this is where I get my therapy from. This is where I would have shown love for my son. Now I replace that with showing love to the community. And trying to avoid other families to have to sit up here, because this is a club that nobody wants to be in. And this shit you won't be famous for. Because see, when your child dies or your loved one dies, you die that day. You're dead. You have to learn how to get out the bed again. You have to learn how to put one foot in front of the other. And the biggest thing for me was I had to learn how to sit at that table and look at that empty chair. First 30 days, man, that tore me up. To sit down for a family meal and have to look at that empty chair. So when there's somebody that's there to walk you through those things, it's gracefully appreciated. And even if you can't, appreciate it in words, it's heartfelt when there's somebody there to provide that for you. But that's what we're doing, and that's what everybody should be doing. That's what everybody should be doing in their hearts.
Thank you. Uncle Bobby, we'll say more about the work you're doing, then we're going to open it up to questions.
Yes. Hello? Okay, we're back. Again, let us not forget the organizations these fathers just talked about. Our organization, again, is the Love Not Black campaign. And of course, our primary focus through one of our campaigns, which is Families United for Justice, is creating a network of families. We have over 600 families in our network. And we do these conferences pretty much every year. Our very first conference was in 2014 in Oakland. We had about 12 families out of state that came, and the rest was, of course, from the Bay Area, about 30 families in all. 2017, we had a conference in Detroit. We had 52 families. And again, we raised the money to make sure that these families can come to this space and to network. Detroit was 52. Then we went back to Oakland, had 103. Of course, very powerful in Oakland. Then we took it to Las Vegas, had 175 families in Las Vegas. And then just last year in 2021, we had it in San Diego. We had 325 families. Sadly, it has continued to grow, and that's what this is all about, stopping that growth. But sadly, it has grown. And there are so many unknown family names that we don't even know, that once they realize an opportunity for them to meet other families and to realize they're not alone, it helps begin the process of them learning how to articulate their story, how to advocate for legislative change, how to also become a vessel for someone that's in that pain that they can help. And this year, our conference, as the wife said, we don't want to reveal yet because we like to surprise the family with the place chosen. But the registration filled out within, I think it was 28 hours. We was already at a max. With your support, we can bring more families. And so don't forget, Love Not Black campaign. You can go to the PayPal button, and of course, you can donate there. This helps us make sure that a family flight is taken care of, their accommodations are taken care of, the food and beverages taken care of. All they have to do is just show up. Because some families are, right now, over 40 families that are brand new coming for their first conference. And they don't even really know what they expect, but they're struggling. And so your help in making us all be as successful in bringing about this real systemic change is critical to the change. Your participation. Everybody have a role to play, and then I'm going to pin it so you can ask questions. But remember this, we all have a role to play. All of you are activists, all of you are in your specific lane doing the work that you're doing. But we've got to remember, no one person can do it all. And if we all do just something, right, it's a piece to the puzzle to eventually get the job done. That's what this work is about. So we solicit to you your support and helping us continue to be on that front line getting the job done, because we believe that until us that are closest to the pain is leading the movement for real systemic change, sitting at the table, making sure that our legislators hear our pain and hear us and what we want, right, we will never get it done. So help us continue to stay in the front. Make sure that we continue to have the strength, the resources, and of course the love to make it happen. Because that's how the change is going to occur. I had to kind of give the best voice visual possible because I had a couple of videos we wanted to share, but we're having the technical issues. Okay. So we'll do it at the end. I'm not sure if there's any other sessions going on after this. I think it's lunch. But whatever the case is, we'll do it at the end. But we definitely want you to have, answer the best we can your questions that have come forth. So let me pass it back to Mike.
So now we're going to open it up to your questions in the floor. And I want to check in the back. Do we want a mic, a roaming mic, or do they just stand up and they just ask their questions?
If they can stand up and ask, can you repeat the question?
Okay.
That's a good way to do it.
In the back, please, your question.
Peace and blessings, King. Reggie Hubbard here. I don't have a question. I have a moment of gratitude. Thank you for your stories and your courage being on stage. I'm a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, an unapologetically black man. However, I can be of service to you and your communities. I avail myself to your service. So I'll leave my card at the front. I actually have to go teach now. But however I, as a black man, can help you, I will.
Thank you, brother.
As you heard, there wasn't a question, but there was a gift. There was a gift. Yes, in the back.
I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I can't imagine the pain you guys have been through. And I just want to join Reggie in thanking you for taking the leadership you are and the pledge. We all have to stand with you to stop this horrible epidemic of
Thank you.
So for those who didn't hear, as a father, as a grandfather, he doesn't know what it's like, but he wants to stand with these brothers. Powerful. Question, please. Yes. Yeah.
I wrote down my question because I'm a crier. So I just want to get through this without crying and to say like that you are all resilient is an understatement.
Thanks.
Make sure we hear you.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Hold it kind of close.
Okay, that's great. And that you are all endowed with strength that can only come from above. So I'm so grateful to you for sharing your stories. And something that digs at me after the violence we see in our communities, after police murder black and brown bodies, are the violent videos that proliferate online. And as fathers and as uncles and sons of those who were murdered, how do you feel when you see these? Like, do you feel that they do more harm than good? Because, like, as a brown woman, sometimes I worry that these videos can normalize the violence in our communities when I see them proliferated, but I have not been a victim of this or a survivor of this, so I would love to hear how you feel when you see these. And thank you.
Jump in.
Well, I think, well, you want to get in my head? Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I definitely just feel like it's an example of how they feel about you, right? They want to remind you how we feel about you. I think with all these guys that's up here, you know, it reminds us of what we're going through every time we see a different video of someone being slain, or like Mike in the street for 4.5 hours, you know. They definitely trying to just paint their own picture of, it's almost like television, right? You know what television means, right? It's set up for you to be brainwashed a certain type of way, right? So they would definitely tell us quick when we lose our loved one that basically like the sky is red, right? And they're telling you the sky is red. And we looking up, we like, it's blue. But they paint these narratives for us to believe that in any case, it was justified for killing your loved one. And these videos that's out here are telling us the truth, but they don't want us to see it that way, you know? And it's just weird. I feel like it just plays on the brain, you know?
Yeah,
it plays on the mental, you know? And
It's set up by the media.
Yeah, definitely.
It's set up by the media to normalize, because if you told Donald Trump's lies continuously, then that lie becomes normal, right? So you know he's gonna lie, but now that's normal. So it's normal to see a black boy beat down, shot, killed by the police. So that normalizes it to you all, but not the families.
And if I can add, Oscar was killed again on January 1st, 2009. And so I've been seeing videos since then on a regular and consistent basis. But every time that occurs in a video, it reopens my pain. And I'm sure the same for every father, son, and uncle sitting on this platform. So is it damaging or is it revealing? And what we have looked at, and I'll speak specifically for myself, it has become more revealing because all of you are sitting in here because of these videos, right? All of you have come to witness the heinous act of police violence in this country because of those videos. Because like I said earlier, if there was no video of Oscar murder, none of us would know Oscar was even murdered. I wouldn't even be telling the story. If I was telling the story, you wouldn't be able to visualize it because there is no evidence of it. Sadly, though, it is traumatizing that it's so consistent, but at the same time, right, the more of us that echoes this pain, the undeniable of the issue that is occurring in this country. We all know today that there must be something done because it's just way too much of it. So that means we all got to go to work. We all got to go to work to bring about that change.
Question right here. Yeah. Stand up so we can make sure we don't miss you.
Thank you all for.
Hi, my name is Neil Hussain. Thank you all for sharing your stories. I'm a little curious, when it comes to the policy level, are there places where you all differ on elements of what should be done? Gentleman over here thinks we should do A, but gentleman there thinks actually that won't do anything, it should be B. And if I could also ask, do you, in your networks, your families, your neighborhoods, et cetera, do you know personally police officers? If so, what are your conversations with them like? Thank you all again. I'm very grateful.
Well, when it comes to policy, we all,
a unified front.
Yeah, it's common sense. It's common sense change that we're looking for. As far as this table is concerned, the police itself is the muscle for white supremacy.
So why would we trust them? We've trusted long enough. We're going to trust our way right into the grave.
Yeah, and as far as, dealing with police, I know, police personally, that was family and friends before this happened. And they're still family and friends, but, when it comes to hiring more police, and they can hire as many as they want if they don't have immunity. If we can get rid of immunity, it's no problem with police at all, because everybody be held accountable. The doctors have their insurance. The hairdressers have their insurance. The Uber drivers, the police insurance is our pocket.
If you own a company, you have to have insurance to do business. And you're held accountable if you do something to somebody's property while you're doing or conducting your business. Well, they're conducting business with no insurance.
So let me just say one other piece in terms of policy. Well, let me talk about the police first, because people think that because they see us fighting these fights, that automatically we're anti-law enforcement. That's the first thing people think. Oh, they must hate the police. No, we are anti-individuals who feel they can do whatever they want to whomever they want. That's what we are. It's not about being anti-law enforcement. And then as far as policy goes, dealing with these elected officials is very tricky. I often say that they all say Black Lives Matter. For instance, let's just take New York, and my sister Erica Ford could probably co-sign exactly what I'm saying. Governor Cuomo, former governor, after George Floyd was killed, said that he wanted to put forth these task force in all of the cities and states, cities in New York and towns, and that we need to come up with some type of police reform or policing or reinvent and reimagine. So of course all these elected officials started doing it. But what have we seen now from 2020 to 2022? When you look at the rate of killings, and the killings haven't changed, it's still the same. So my question has always been to the elected officials, are you saying Black Lives Matter because it really matters to you? Or are you saying it because it's politically advantageous? It's in line with what you want right now. So if you don't say it, you'll probably lose votes. So this is the problem. So when we look at policy, yes, we all want to see these changes, because if it works in California, it could potentially work in Ferguson. It could potentially work in Florida. It could potentially work in Wisconsin and then in New York, or whichever city gets it first. So this is why, yeah, we're all on basically agreeing about all of these changes that need to happen. Because if it can affect one in a positive way, it can affect all.
Thank you.
And that's basically what I was getting ready to say. We'll take, for instance, for an example, the Justice Act, right? All of us heard about the Justice Act. It came into existence because of the murder of George Floyd, right? But yet we have legislators that may bring these ideas forth, and none of us is at the table. So they bring a gumless bill to the table, present it to you as if they want to do about some real change.
And do nothing.
Pass the bill, and it does nothing.
Nothing.
In order for policy to work, and this is where we sit in all agreement, we have to be at the table. If we're not at the table and it's being created, we're not in agreement.
We've made a table.
So I put it like that. Oh, and just so that you know, just to share really quickly, in 2015, we passed AB 71, which is use of force data collection by the Department of Justice of the state of California, that gave us the numbers of how many were being killed. We followed that up with, in 2016, AB 953, the Racial Identification Profiling Act, because we wanted to know how many brothers, black males or brown males, were being killed just because of a simple stop, air freshener in the window. Dante Wright, right? Okay.
Air freshener.
Right. Then we came back with 1421, and I'm speaking specifically about the state of California, which is a transparency law, SB 1421, that Senator Skinner passed for us. They gave us a right now to look in officers' folders to be more proactive in making sure these bad characters stay out. AB 748, the video audio release within 45 days, because many of us suffer for 4 or 5 years before we even get to see the video. Laquan McDonald, for example, right? We also came back with AB 392, use of force legislation called the Stephon Clark Law, right? Stephon was killed in Sacramento. But that legislation took away in the state of California what a reasonable officer would have done, right? Remember that what a reasonable officer would have done, but now it's well, shoot. It's not, we changed the language to not reasonable, necessary. Thank you, baby. That's my wife. You know, sometimes we struggle. Hey, we couldn't do this work without our better halves.
He wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't even call the flights.
I mean, I can go on with the legislative passes, but if we're at the table, families, speaking to these legislators, making sure they understand what the issue is, then we're all in agreement. But if we're not at the table, we're not at agreement.
We're going to show a film, a very brief film, but I want to also thank you for being a part of this conversation and joining us. I live in Oakland, California, the home of the Black Panther Party, and they are in the legacy of the Black Panther Party. You know, the Black Panther Party started around the issue of policing. That's right. That was fundamentally what it started, issues around policing. And so if we have a few more seconds left, we're going to come back to you. And you want to say something real quickly?
Say one thing.
Go ahead and say that one thing, and we'll shut the film.
What was interesting to me this morning, as I watched the news when I prepared to come in, on MSNBC, they were interviewing a mother from where we in Ukraine, from the Ukraine. And in this interview, the mother said to the interviewer that her son came to her and said, "Mommy, are the Russians gonna kill us?" And they made a big deal out of the little boy saying that to the mother. I said, we send hundreds of millions of dollars to the Ukraine. When there's little boys in the neighborhood that I come from that ask their mothers, are the police gonna kill us, Ma? So what the fuck is wrong with the United States?
All right. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show this video. It's about 4 minutes. And just a little story of what we do, the work we have done, and how your support can be so important in making this happen.
Hit play.
The idea to have this conference was for
No
families
sound.
that have been impacted by police violence. To bring these families together, to be empowered through their conference was for families that have been impacted by police violence. To bring these families together, to be empowered through various workshops that they pick, to bring in facilitators that actually have been in the field, working with the pain that these families have experienced, to be able to feed them and teach them and give them the right knowledge to be able to take home and utilize in their own personal struggles. This weekend was about for families to come and bring their good vibrations only, to radiate with love, to radiate with smiles, to radiate with the idea of being able to relax and see the water and maybe sailboats, the skyline of the city, to be in a frame of mind to be recharged so that when they do go back home, they're not on fumes but on new energy, with new ideas and with new information to help them and better equip them to be able to move forward in seeking justice for their loved one. And I think most importantly, the networking, the socializing with one another, to communicate and then come to realize that they are not alone, that these are not isolated incidents or situations where there appears to be they're the only ones that's been impacted. This is systemic. It goes to the core of policing, and it's happening with families all across this country to a just unbelievable state that needs to be changed. I think deeper that drives me is that it's really not about us or myself. It's really about the children. Because if we fail to stand, and I say this all the time, that if I fail to stand today, it'll be their demise tomorrow. So this work is really about the future generations to come, to eradicate the pains of this issue concerning police violence, to make sure that our children have real freedom, justice, and equality, as it should be for all.
There's a lot of good people behind this, and I'm just so proud to be part of this. And whatever I can do, whatever my children can do, we'll be glad to volunteer. Because all it takes is one person at a time, and it's impactful of what we can do with just total dedication and just a love for each other.
It's a club you never think you're going to be part of. You don't think something like this would ever happen, but it's amazing to have the kind of support that Love Not Blood has given our family. So Uncle Bobby and Aunt B have become like family to me. Like, they reach out to me, check in, how you doing? It's not just about a conference. It's like they really do truly care.
Uncle Bobby especially, he's somebody that we remember in the movement, and somebody who brought us together. He's somebody, if anybody does it, they're the United Families for anything. Anybody, whoever brings the families together, you have to pay homage to Uncle Bobby because he did it first on the mass level.
I'd like to volunteer with this organization. I see how it has impacted my life. Just being here for one day, and if I can continue to pour into people's lives the way I have, but on a bigger scale, being connected with this organization organization, I feel like I can touch many more lives. So I'm happy to be here.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! Power to the people! And give the people what they want. Come on, y'all. Power to the people! And give the people what they want. But what do we want?
That's B, baby.
I want to say, I know y'all was laughing, but we had a 70s, they dressed up as 70s last year. And we had prizes, we gave them money, so they really dressed up. So that's what you see there. And that we call that healing through resistance. We do stuff like that because this year we were going to do a talent show because families impacted have talent. And so we're going to do that. But these are the things that we do. Is coming up September 29th to October 2nd. If you feel the need, please help us by donating to www.lovenotblood campaign so we can make these families, just for a little bit, have some space where they can go back and fight. Our theme last year was good vibration. It's going to be the same this year. Good vibrations, because we need that in this universe, how it's going right now. So thank you all. Thank you so much. Okay?
And we're going to make a little noise before we go. We're going to make a little noise. I know we've been sitting here.
Yes, God, won't you do that? Yes.
It's our house. It's our house. Whose house?
Our house.
You got to say it with your esophagus, let it come out through your throat. And so, we won't bother the people in the next room. Like, what's going on over there? It's too late. It's all over. Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
In this panel, we're the fathers. Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Who are we?
The fathers.
Who are we?
The fathers.
Who are we?
The fathers.
Everybody power up. Say break down, we're going to go, whoo. All right, we got it. We're going to put it all together now. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Put your hands down. Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Whose house?
Our house.
Who are we?
Fathers.
Who are we?
The fathers.
Who are we?
The fathers.
Power up. Break down. Power up. Break down. Power up. 2 times. Break down. Yeah, boy.
All right. You want to get a portrait?
The fathers are gonna come out and we're gonna stand up here. I'm sorry about Kim in the chamber.
Can you all pray for him, please?
Yeah, he
needs your prayer.
The work is never
Kenneth
done.
needs your prayers. Please pray for him.
We will.
We're gonna stand up here. We'll take about